Hello and welcome to a new lecture on CISSP Domain 1, where we will explore the essential principles and practices that form the backbone of information security within organizations. This session provides a comprehensive overview of security and risk management, a domain that is fundamental to building and maintaining a resilient security program in any modern enterprise. Understanding this domain is crucial for anyone seeking to protect organizational assets, ensure compliance, and support business objectives in an environment characterized by evolving threats and complex regulatory requirements. Security and risk management is not merely a technical discipline, it's a core business function that shapes how organizations operate, adapt, and succeed in the face of adversity. At its heart, this domain defines how an organization governs its security efforts, identifies and addresses risks, and ensures adherence to a wide range of legal, regulatory, or contractual obligations. By mastering the concepts within this domain, security professionals can align security initiatives with business strategies, ensuring that security is an enabler of organizational goals rather than an obstacle. The starting point for effective security and risk management is security governance. Governance provides the structure and direction for all security activities within an organization. It involves establishing clear frameworks, policies, or processes that guide decision-making, assign accountability, and set measurable security objectives. Security governance ensures that security is integrated into the organization's overall strategy rather than being treated as an isolated or reactive function. For instance, a global financial institution might implement a unified security policy that defines risk tolerance, data management procedures, or escalation protocols for security incidents. Such a governance framework promotes consistency across diverse business units and regulatory environments, reducing ambiguity and minimizing gaps in protection. Central to security governance are the foundational principles known as the confidentiality, integrity, and availability triad. These three pillars guide every security objective and control. Confidentiality ensures that information is accessible only to individuals who have explicit authorization. For example, in a healthcare setting, only authorized medical personnel can access patient records, thereby protecting patient privacy and fulfilling legal obligations. Integrity guarantees that information remains accurate and unaltered during storage, processing, or transmission. In the financial sector, this might involve mechanisms that prevent unauthorized modifications to transaction records, thereby maintaining customer trust and regulatory compliance. Availability ensures that information and resources are accessible when required. This is especially critical for services such as online banking or emergency response systems, where downtime can have significant consequences for both the organization and its stakeholders. Risk management is a cornerstone of this domain, providing a systematic approach to identifying, evaluating, and managing risks to organizational assets. Every organization faces a unique combination of threats and vulnerabilities, whether from cybercriminals, natural disasters, or internal actors. The risk management process begins with asset identification, cataloging items such as intellectual property, customer data, or critical infrastructure. Each asset is then assessed for associated threats or vulnerabilities. For example, an energy provider may recognize its control systems as high-value assets that are susceptible to both cyber attacks or physical sabotage. Once risks are identified, organizations must assess both the likelihood of these risks materializing and the potential impact should they occur. This assessment often combines quantitative methods, such as statistical analysis, with qualitative approaches that draw on expert judgment. For instance, a retail organization might use historical incident data to estimate the probability of a data breach and calculate the potential financial impact, including regulatory fines, legal expenses, or reputational damage. This process enables organizations to prioritize risks and allocate resources efficiently, focusing on the most significant threats. Managing risk involves selecting appropriate strategies based on the organization's risk appetite and the nature of the threats faced. 4 primary strategies are commonly used: risk avoidance, risk mitigation, risk transfer, or risk acceptance. Risk avoidance entails eliminating activities that introduce unacceptable risk, such as discontinuing a product line that cannot be secured. Risk mitigation seeks to reduce the likelihood or impact of a risk, often through technical controls like firewalls, encryption, or employee training. Risk transfer involves shifting the burden of risk to another party, typically through insurance, or by outsourcing certain operations to vendors with specialized security capabilities. Risk acceptance is chosen when the cost of mitigation exceeds the potential loss, and the organization decides to bear the risk, often with contingency plans in place to manage potential consequences. Compliance is another critical aspect of security and risk management. Organizations must adhere to a complex array of legal, regulatory, or contractual requirements that govern how information is collected, stored, processed, or shared. Laws such as the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act in the United States, or the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard for organizations handling credit card data, all impose stringent security obligations. Failure to comply with these requirements can result in significant penalties, legal action, or loss of customer trust. To address these challenges, organizations often adopt established compliance frameworks, such as International Organization for Standardization 27001, the National Institute of Standards and Technology Frameworks, or Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. These frameworks provide structured methodologies for implementing and managing security controls, conducting risk assessments, or documenting compliance activities. For example, a healthcare provider might use the International Organization for Standardization standard to develop a comprehensive information security management system, ensuring that patient data is protected, staff are properly trained, and incidents are managed in accordance with both legal or operational requirements. Policies, procedures, or guidelines form the backbone of a robust security posture. Security policies articulate high-level intentions and objectives, such as requiring that all customer data be encrypted both at rest or in transit. Procedures provide detailed instructions for implementing these policies, such as configuring encryption on file servers or mobile devices. Guidelines offer best practices and recommendations, allowing for flexibility while ensuring that security standards are consistently met. Together, these documents help organizations maintain clarity, consistency, or accountability in their security operations. For instance, an international law firm may establish policies for remote access, procedures for secure connection setup, or guidelines for handling sensitive documents while traveling. A thorough understanding of the legal and regulatory environment is essential for security professionals. Organizations operate within a landscape shaped by local, national, or international laws that address privacy, intellectual property, or cybersecurity. For example, a technology company serving customers in multiple countries must comply with each region's privacy laws, manage cross-border data transfers, or resolve conflicting legal requirements. In addition to statutory obligations, contractual agreements with partners, clients, or vendors often include specific security provisions. Failure to meet these obligations can result in breach of contract, litigation, or loss of business relationships. Security professionals must be skilled at interpreting these requirements and integrating them into daily operations, ensuring that security practices reinforce both legal or contractual commitments. Business continuity and disaster recovery planning are also vital components of security and risk management. These practices ensure that organizations can maintain essential functions and recover quickly from disruptions, whether caused by cyber attacks, system failures, or natural disasters. Business impact analysis helps organizations identify critical processes and estimate the consequences of downtime. For example, a manufacturing company may determine that even a brief interruption to its production line could lead to substantial financial losses or supply chain disruptions. Continuity strategies, such as maintaining redundant systems or offsite backups, and recovery plans that outline step-by-step responses to incidents, are crucial for minimizing operational or reputational damage. By integrating business continuity with overall risk management, organizations enhance their resilience and ability to navigate unexpected challenges. Fostering a security-aware culture is another priority within this domain. Employees are often the first line of defense against threats such as phishing, social engineering, or accidental data leaks. Regular training programs, simulated attacks, or awareness campaigns empower staff to recognize suspicious activity, understand the importance of security protocols, and respond appropriately to incidents. For instance, a university might conduct simulated phishing exercises to teach faculty and students how to identify fraudulent emails. Organizations that invest in building awareness and accountability at all levels consistently achieve stronger security outcomes and recover more rapidly from incidents. Throughout this introduction, it becomes clear that security and risk management is the foundation upon which all other areas of information security are built. Mastering the key concepts in this domain enables professionals to align security with business objectives, proactively manage threats, and maintain compliance in a dynamic regulatory environment. Whether the task is protecting healthcare data, securing financial transactions, or ensuring the reliability of critical infrastructure, the principles discussed here provide the guidance necessary for effective decision-making and the development of resilient security programs. In conclusion, a comprehensive understanding of security governance, risk management, compliance, or organizational culture is essential for anyone seeking to lead or support security initiatives. These foundational concepts not only prepare individuals for advanced topics within the CISSP framework, but also equip them with the mindset and tools required to address real-world challenges. By applying these principles, security professionals can help organizations achieve their strategic goals while maintaining robust protection against an ever-changing threat landscape. Continue to build your expertise in security and risk management, as these skills are indispensable for success in the field of information security.